Welcome. My name is Grandma Storm. I write stories for young adults. Today I am reading chapters 111 through 115 in my book, The Book of Faith. "111. Dr. Luce was reading what was happening in real time. He would turn a page, look, and see the very act fulfilled before his eyes. Take the 7 heads and 10 crowns on the dragon, for instance. He saw the dear queen transformed at the union with the Dark Prince. She had 1 head then, which was more than enough. But on the next page the book said the dragon at the final battle would have 7 heads with 10 horns. All along this march she was sprouting heads until there were the full 7. Then horns cut through the skin of the blood-red skulls. The book also said the heads were adorned with crowns. No problem. After plundering the wagon of the bejeweled dollies, it wore 10 crowns. He read of the valley of dry bones. If this were true, then he knew what his army faced. Knowing the enemy was half of the battle. As for his troops, only the brown leathers behaved as soldiers. The rest limped along, but they too would be transformed. That was part of the deal. Contracts, arbitration, documentation. He arranged it all with the darkness. So far, they were keeping their part of the bargain. Then he read about a key. With the key to the abyss. Key. He had seen a very interesting key of late. Sounded like a fairy tale, but then a while ago he would not have given much credence to flying red dragons with 10 crowns. Perhaps he should have paid more attention to that key around that child's neck. 112. The last few nights yielded several fish in his net. Poor, starved creatures. Good thing they would be traveling by boat. These new fish could barely walk. Unlike Faith's convalescents, there was no time to nurse these back to health. They had the slime washed off the last victim, a clean tunic pulled over his head, and a mug of hot tea in his hands, when a finch landed on Manson's shoulder. It pecked him on the ear. A little scroll was tied to its leg. The orders always came by bird. Species does not seem to matter. Orioles, sparrows, crows, and owls delivered messages to him over Manson's time of penance. A turtle dove came recently. Orders were always exact and detailed. He never disobeyed. Deceit and treason were purged from his soul. He would never embrace them again. After untying the scroll, the finch flitted away. He knew she would find her way out by a door left ajar, or maybe an open window. He read, "There will be no more fishing. The camps are closed. Load the people onto the boat. You will be met at the end of the Queen's lands by the mill on the river. Go now." That startled him. He had prepared according to all previous directives. The boat was built to the plans he had received. He turned and gave the order. "Tell everyone to get on the boat. We launch within the hour." It was a fair journey. The flat boat swept along the river without incident, illumined by the sun during the day and by the moons at night. With decent rations and rest, the recent catch was mending. No sign of the enemy disturbed them. What he dreaded was the end of the river. These could not hike to the mountains. Someone was to meet them? Would horses be provided? If so, would his fish have the strength to ride? Manson sat at the prow. The moonlight was bright on the water. According to the chart, they should see the mill the next day. It was then that a nightingale alighted on his shoulder. As usual, a scroll was tied to its leg. He slipped off the note, and the nightingale flew away. A great cloud and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire, came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, and every one had 4 faces, and every one had 4 wings, and their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot. And they sparkled like the color of burnished brass, and they had the hands of a man under their wings on their 4 sides. And they 4 had their faces and their wings. Their wings were joined one to another. They turned not when they went. They went every one straight forward. Whatever could this mean? 113. Whoa there, man, called the 3rd scholar to the driver. Stop the horses. All right, hollered the driver, if you say so. As an aside to the other scholars, he added, Nature calls. The wagon halted. Bracing his back with his hand, the 3rd scholar stood on shaky legs and tottered to the back. Eyebrows were raised by scholars 2 and 4. Dr. Luce did not look up from his reading. With help from the driver, the 3rd scholar made it successfully to the ground. The driver clambered back onto his seat and slapped the reins. The wagon lurched forward. The 3rd scholar hobbled away, seeking a spot with a bit of privacy. Fool, thought the 2nd scholar. Fool, said the 3rd scholar. I say, man, said the 2nd to the 4th, what are you talking about? Well, he was expendable, I suppose. Explain, sir. He was only good for mathematical computations, a mere calculator, like the boy Ashiel. We are done with theory. The ultimate practicum awaits us. What is needed now is power. Dr. Luce has assured us of that. So, as I was saying, fool. More than you realize, answered the 2nd scholar. I believe the 3rd scholar is about to experience a practicum of his own. He lowered his voice, but he did not need to. The 5th scholar was snoring, and the 6th was deaf anyway. Only Dr. Luce could hear him, but he seemed lost in his reading. Their conversation continued. Have you noted the peculiar nature of the landscape? I have. Before is as always, but behind is a sort of flatness, an odd heaviness. I do believe it is getting closer. Is that what you are referring to? Yes. With a glance to Dr. Luce, the 2nd scholar continued, If we pull this off, it will be in the nick of time. No cliché intended. In fact, I believe the presence that fills this universe is rolling over our reality. As you know, the theory postulates that all we see, all we know, accounts for 5% of all that exists. We are being overwhelmed by the remaining 95%. Space, time, gravity are warping. Gravity is out of balance because time is nearly deficit. In non-technical terms, we are being smashed. If the 3rd scholar falls far enough behind, My theory is it will be to his demise. I think he will be flattened by the larger reality. We shall see, shan't we? If you are correct, he will give his life for science, observed the fourth scholar. It will give impetus to our work, or else he will jog up and hop in, ruining our hypothesis. They both smirked. They knew the third scholar as a feeble, sickly wimp. Not 5 minutes later, they heard a garbled cry. It could have been 100 paces off. It could have been further. The gathering darkness and the strange perception of heaviness confused their senses. Fool, whispered the fourth scholar into the ear of the second scholar. Fool, agreed the second scholar. Dr. Luce closed the book, looked at the men, and spit. Yes, bloody fool. What they did not see was a man dropping the cloak and cap of the scholars. He made that cry as a last act in a long performance. He straightened his back, took a bearing, and picked up a jog. The years melted away as he ran. Elijah happily shed the person he was not for the person he really was. A cotter pin jostled in his pocket. He hoped it would not be missed until it was too late. He quickened his pace. He had a wife to kiss and a child to hug. 114. Now. Now? Now! The darkness communicated in the usual, unnerving, painful fashion. It felt like hammers smacking inside his brain. He would rather talk to a face. Something human would be nice. Dr. Luce signaled the driver to stop. A brown leather came running to his side, awaiting orders. Halt the column. Assemble for attack. Yes, Dr. Luce. Foot-weary and starved, the order to halt was greeted with exhausted relief. The next command was not welcome. Put the oldest and the women in the front line. I want to keep the best fighters in the rear. The forward lines can absorb the first attack. At once, sir. An advance scout came running with a report. An army is assembled over the ridge. What is their strength? Legions bearing short swords. The commander? Unknown. I saw giants. How many? 4. Interesting. Turning to the scholars, Dr. Luce hissed, Now! The scholars rose stiffly, wrestled with the boxes, and began to unload the wagon. Could use an extra hand, grunted the second to the fifth. Well, we are only 4 now. Could we enlist a brown leather? They are busy. We will have to do this on our own. Still, it would be nice to be aided by a strong back. Back? Back, you say? Queried a tall, stick-thin man in black plush. His lips spread wide, revealing a set of magnificent teeth. He bowed. Allow me. Do I know you? Inquired the fourth scholar as he handed the man a box. We have not been formally introduced, smiled the white teeth. My name was Skiva. Oh, yes, said the sixth scholar. I remember you at the last congregation. You brought the little one. Skiva dropped the smile and spat. Enough talk. Assemble the regulator. Time is short. The fifth scholar was about to question why this man should be giving orders when the red dragon flew into view. The scholars ducked, but did not stop their work. Skiva hurried the last of the crates to the scholars. Now, growled Skiva, make this bloody thing work. The fourth scholar turned to ask for help in prying open a box, but Skiva had vanished. 115. Dr. Luce surveyed the valley of dry bones from a concealed position. Is that all the so-called king could assemble? Foot soldiers? Somehow he had expected more. He was not sure what. Something supernatural, perhaps? Did not the book talk of some sort of flying thing? The only flying thing was the red dragon, who was currently terrifying his forward ranks. His confidence in his alliance swelled. He wondered what the army on the other side thought of his little air show. Dr. Luce, we meet again, spoke a voice down the back of his neck. He swung around to look at an impressive set of white teeth. Dr. Luce began. Oh, it's... Silence, commanded Skiva. The Dark Prince sent me to transform your army as he has transformed me. Yes, hissed Dr. Luce. I see. So here was the face he had hoped for. Not quite what he expected. Dr. Luce surveyed his front ranks. The toothless women and the old men huddled in hunched groups. Then they vanished. In their stead stood immense spiders, snapping iron jaws, raving wolves foaming at the mouth, devils incarnate screaming curses, immense lizards, and flaming hornets with the wingspan of buzzards. There was one anomaly. A lone man did not transform, but ran toward the valley. A deserter? Well, at least he would die first. Dr. Luce, the scholars report the regulator is prepared. They await power, relayed a brown leather. On my signal. Yes, Dr. Luce. Dr. Luce noted one of the monsters had a bit of orange tool pinching its abdomen. Thank you for listening. To hear more of the story, please come back soon, or you may purchase your own copy on Amazon. Just follow the link below. Until next time.